girl. One thing about having a milk cow is that you always have a ton of fresh milk. Today we are going to be using a lot of milk to make a fantastic treat that we have recently discovered. We're so happy to share it with you. I guarantee you've never seen anything like this before.
Well, we're back in the house from milking and doing all of our other morning chores, and today we are going to be making an awesome treat. Something that we made the other day for the very first time. We didn't really know how it was going to turn out, and it was awesome. But today we're putting a twist on it.
Now, just to let you guys know, we don't buy like any snacks. And I know this has kind of been a joke over the last couple of years that we don't buy any snacks, and Kevin likes to snack, and occasionally I'll buy popcorn. But we just don't have like chips, and we don't just buy junk food like that.
Right.
So to be able to find something that we can make on the homestead with our homegrown, home-produced food that is snacky is like a total win.
Right.
So when we did this snack and we both loved it, it was like a really great moment on the homestead.
So today we're going to be making freeze-dried cheese. It may sound weird, but let me tell you, you are going to be amazed at how easy it is and how awesome it is in the end.
So we're not just going to be sticking cheese in the freeze dryer today. We're actually going to be making the cheese here on the homestead. We'll bring you along in that process. And we're making several different flavors.
Right.
Yeah, because we got to mix it up. And then we'll go through the freeze drying process and taste it on camera so you can be along with that. Now, we've never tasted the flavorings that we're going to do today.
Right. Yeah, we've only made plain. So the flavors we're just hoping will turn out okay. But even if you don't have a freeze dryer, you can make the cheese part of this.
Absolutely.
And I think you're going to absolutely love it. You don't even need a cow. You can go to the store. You can buy just regular milk from the store, whole milk, and you can make this cheese recipe yourself. So we're going to get started. The first thing I think Sarah's going to do is try to take all of the cream off of the milk that we've had in the refrigerator.
The most special thing about having your own milk cow, especially having a Jersey milk cow, is that they produce the most wonderful cream, and it is abundant. You probably can't see on these jars, but I just want to point out to you the cream line. The cream line here is right there. So everything above here is cream. On this one, the cream line is down here. So from everything from here up is cream. And our cow, Rose, is just getting started. As she gets older, she'll produce more and more cream. So after just a few weeks, to get this kind of cream line from a newly freshened heifer is amazing.
Right.
But it's like gold, you guys. I'm gonna quickly ladle this off and save it in a jar so that I can make butter later on. But it's not something that I want to waste. So there are lots of ways to skim cream off of whole milk, fresh milk. And I really, most of the time, just prefer to ladle it out with a little gravy ladle. I know that seems time consuming, but I really do enjoy the process. Now I do have a really big like iced tea container that has a spigot on the bottom. And a lot of times if I am doing a big amount of milk at a time, I'll just pour all the milk into that. I think it holds like 3 or 4 gallons. I'll let it set up in the refrigerator so all the cream comes to the top. And then I can just pour out from the bottom all the milk, and then the cream will be left on top. There are also machines out there, cream separator machines. They're pretty expensive. And also if you have a large volume of milk that you want to separate the cream out of, you can do that. I don't have one of those. I've looked at them. And at this time, I'm not interested in getting one. There are just some things on the homestead that I don't mind what you would consider the long version, the long and tedious way of doing things. For me, there's just joy in this process of separating the cream off of the milk. So I've skimmed some of this off of here, but you can see where the cream line is. Basically, cream floats to the top of fresh milk, and you can just dip your ladle in there and gently get some of that heavy cream off the top. When it gets close to the milk, there's actually a difference in the color of milk versus cream. So you can start seeing that coming through, and then you'll know to be careful. It's kind of like skimming fat off the top of your broth. If you've ever made homemade broth and you skim the fat off of it, this is basically the exact same process. So I'm just going to continue doing this until I have 1, 2, 3 gallons, 3.5 gallons worth of milk to skim the cream off of. Once I'm all done, then we're going to make the cheese out of it. The cream's too good to leave in the cheese. Well, that's all done. Out of about 3 gallons of milk, I skimmed off almost a half gallon of cream. So I will use this to turn into butter. And this amount of cream will give me about 1.5 pounds of butter.
So today for our snack, we're going to be starting by making a real simple farm cheese. This is a cheese that anybody can make at home. It's super fast. It doesn't take anything fancy at all. All it's going to use is milk and vinegar. So we're going to start our batch. We're going to make with 3.5 gallons of milk. Now the only thing is, make sure you have a pot big enough to hold all of the milk that you're going to be using. And if you have a heavy bottom pot, that helps a lot because it makes it a little easier so that the milk doesn't burn on the bottom of the pot. Now, you don't have to make this big of a batch at a time. You can make it with just 1 gallon of milk. You can even make it with 1/2 gallon of milk if you want. I'll tell you the proportions of everything that we use as we go along. So, but in our case, this is how much extra milk we had in the refrigerator right now. So this is how much we're going to use. And this will make quite a bit of cheese. Alright, so we've got all of our milk in there. We're going to go ahead and turn our stove on. Now if you don't have a heavy bottom pot, you want to heat it up a little slower than I'm going to. This pot I know doesn't really burn much, at least not for this first little part until it starts to warm up. This milk is still pretty cool. We've had it sitting out for a little while, but it's still pretty cold. So the goal here is we want to heat this milk up to about 190 to 195 degrees. And we're going to do that with this much milk. It's probably going to take 45 minutes or so to get to that point. Right now I'm not going to stir it constantly, but after it gets to, I'd say, 140 or so degrees, you want to really stir constantly so that the milk doesn't burn on the bottom of the pot. The only other ingredient to make the actual cheese part of this is going to be regular white vinegar. What you want to use is a half cup per gallon of milk that you're using. So in our case, we're going to use 1 3/4 cups. I'll probably just round up to 2 cups. You really can't use too much vinegar, but you can use too little. Use at least a half a cup per gallon of milk. I'm going to let this just keep heating up while I get my vinegar ready. Alright, so we're going to pour 2 cups of vinegar. Now again, it's going to be quite a while before we need this, but I always like to have it handy because sometimes all of a sudden the temperature sneaks up on you and then you're not ready for it. Now, one thing a lot of people ask about this type of cheese is, does it end up tasting like vinegar at the end? And it absolutely does not. It doesn't have any vinegar taste at all. The vinegar is really just used to create a chemical reaction. You can actually use anything that's really acidic, like citric acid or lemon juice will do the same thing. It's just to create a chemical reaction which removes the curds from the whey of the milk. So you don't have to use vinegar, but it's probably the most economical thing to use. So we're going to leave that sitting here. We're going to start, just every once in a while coming over and stirring the milk just to make sure that nothing is getting burned, but at this point it really shouldn't. And then we're just going to use a regular meat thermometer to go ahead and measure the temperature. I'll check back with you as we get closer to the 195 degree mark. Alright, it's been, I don't know, I haven't been keeping track of the time. It's been quite a while though. Been stirring this constantly now for about the last 20 minutes, and we're now at 195 degrees. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn the heat off, and we're going to get our vinegar, and we're going to add the vinegar slowly as we continue to stir. And you want to kind of stir top to bottom so you really make sure you get the vinegar through the entire thing. And it starts to happen pretty immediately that you'll see the curds in the whey start to separate. You can see it changing color. Hopefully you can see all of this okay. We're just going to keep stirring for just 30 seconds or a minute or so, just to make sure everything is incorporated in there really well. Alright, now that we've stirred that for a little bit, we're actually going to just let this sit. I'm going to put a cover on here. We're going to let this sit for about 10 or 15 minutes for all of the curds to separate from the whey, and then we'll move on to draining those out. Alright, our timer's gone off. I actually left this for about 15 minutes because we have such a big batch here. So let's take our cover off. We'll look inside. You can see that pretty much all you see at this point is the whey. All of the curds have now sunk to the bottom. Now we're going to take this over to the sink and we're going to strain the whey off of the curds. Alright, so here we are over at the sink. I have a 5-gallon bucket here because we're going to try to save the whey. Once it cools down, we'll be able to give it to some of the animals. In the 5-gallon bucket, I have a strainer. And I just put these spatulas in the handles to hold it onto the sides. I actually learned that trick from Sarah. She does it during canning season, and I thought it was pretty awesome. Then we also have a cloth that we're going to use to strain the cheese through. You can use cheesecloth, but I personally like one of these tea towels better. And you have to just make sure that this is a little bit damp. It'll strain through a lot better that way. So we're going to push that down into our strainer. I'm going to go get the big pot full of curds and whey, and we're going to dump that in and see how much cheese we actually ended up with. And there's all of our curds. Alright, now that most of the whey has drained off, I'm going to bring it over and just set it on top of a smaller pot here so that we can just leave that 5-gallon bucket over there. Alright, now the next thing that we need to do is we need to add salt to our cheese. We're going to first push off just a little bit of the liquid. What I like to do is just push or put the towel up over it like this. We don't want to go overboard, but we do want to get some of the liquid out. Be careful because it is hot at this point. If you have thick rubber gloves or something to wear, it'd probably be a good time to do that. Alright. Now we're going to add some salt. Now I promise you that this is going to sound like too much salt, but if you don't add enough salt, it doesn't taste right. So what we do is 1 tablespoon per gallon of milk that you started with. So in this case, 3.5 tablespoons of salt. We're using pink Himalayan salt, but you can use any kind of salt that you have. So I'm going to put about half of it in there first. I'm going to grab my big wooden spoon again. We're just going to start kind of cutting that and mixing that into the cheese until we can get it all mixed in. Then we'll add the rest of it. Alright, we'll put the rest of our salt in there, and then we're just going to keep mixing that around until you don't see big chunks of salt. I guess that's one advantage of using pink salt, is you can tell better when it's all mixed in. But really make sure you mix it thoroughly, because there's nothing worse than getting a bite of cheese that is, 50% salt. All of our salt is mixed in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to get out just a little bit more of the liquid. So I'm going to just gather my towel up here. And I'm just going to spin it to kind of tighten this into almost a ball. And then I'm just going to push some more of that liquid out into the pot. Now this whey that's coming out now, I probably wouldn't feed to the animals, especially not the pigs, but really probably not any of the animals. The stuff that we did earlier you can, but this is going to have a lot more salt in it from us just salting the cheese, so I would probably just dump this. Alright, so that's about as much of that out of there, I think, as I want. I'm going to actually just leave this kind of curled up like that. We're going to let it cool for, 20 or 30 minutes. And then we're going to put it on a plate. And we're going to cut it into 4, because we're going to be making 4 different flavors of this freeze-dried cheese. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes or so since we squeezed the liquid out of our cheese. Got it in a nice ball here. We're just going to open it up here on a plate. And then we're going to divide it into 4 pieces. You can see it's a nice sized piece of cheese. And we're going to put each piece into a separate bowl so that we can add our flavorings.
Now it's going to fall apart a little bit. This doesn't have to be a exact science.
Right. We want this to be crumbly so that when we put it in the freeze dryer, when it freeze dries, it ends up being, bite-sized pieces.
Or like, popcorn kind of size pieces. I think this one has the least.
Alright, we got all of our cheese. Now we're going to start adding all of our different flavorings.
Normally when we flavor cheese just for fresh eating like this, we put in about 1 tablespoon of seasoning per batch. So that's what we're going to be, that's the formula we're going to be using.
Right, per like 1 gallon of milk that we started with.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So What do you want to start with, sweetie?
It doesn't matter.
Well, we're going to do curry powder.
Right, here's the 4 flavors we're going to do. We're going to do curry powder,
cumin, or cumin, however you say it, oregano, and homemade sriracha.
Alright, I guess let's just go down the line. So we'll use curry powder.
Okay.
Add 1 tablespoon. It smells good for sure.
I'm going to add the cumin, oregano, and I don't know about the liquid. We've never
True.
flavored cheese with the liquid.
True, we've made like chili powder, but never.
I think we should just wing it.
Yeah, just dump some.
If it doesn't look like a dark enough color, like it's gonna be strong enough, we can add some more.
Right.
Oh, it definitely needs more than this.
I'm giving up on the spatula. I'm moving to my hands. I think it's gonna be much easier.
Oops.
I can tell you the smells from these 3 flavors are quite interesting all mixed together in your nose.
Well, the
They don't
sriracha,
exactly all go together, but
the sriracha too is, has vinegar in it, so
right.
that adds quite a scent. Do you think that looks like it has enough flavor in it?
I'd add just a little more, I think. I think it's going to be good, so add more flavor. I'm not going to do that one with my hands, though.
No. I think that's good.
I think that's good, too. All right, we're going to grab our freeze dryer trays and get these all spread out, and we'll get ready to put this in the freeze dryer.
Okay, so we are going to put 1 flavor of these cheese curds per tray for the freeze dryer. Just going to carefully put them on there first of all, and then we'll spread them out. This is going to be so exciting. I think some of these are going to be really nice as a salad topper as well as just, a snack. We're excited to find different ways to use these, and we're always looking for ways to use our homegrown, raised food. So more ways to use all of the milk. When Kevin and I were talking about trying sriracha flavored dehydrated cheese curds, we were worried for a second, like what if they get too wet? Well, it doesn't matter because they're going to be freeze dried. So if they're a little wet at first, it doesn't really matter at all. Dry out in the freeze dryer. Okay, these are all set. So now we can just get these ready to take out to the freeze dryer. Load the freeze dryer, and in just like 24 hours, we're going to try our new snack.
All right, we're out by our freeze dryer. We're going to go ahead and get all of our cheese loaded inside. We're going to get this thing running because I am anxious to try all of these delicious treats. So the first one going in is the cumin. Second one is going to be sriracha, the oregano, and curry. We'll just put our insulator here on the front of the freeze dryer. Shut our door. And it's really just that easy. We'll get this running, and over the next 24 hours or so, this will go through its whole entire process. We'll bring you guys back as soon as it's done. Well, it's the next afternoon. The cheese just came out of the freeze dryer, and it looks awesome, you guys. Look, actually it looks exactly the way it did when we put it in, except instead of being soft and, chewy, it's now super light and crunchy.
I really have wanted to sneak a piece of these, and every time I almost did, Kevin would catch me. So neither of us...
I told her not to ruin the video.
Neither of us have tried this, even though I have really wanted to and literally almost had one in my mouth before this video.
Tomorrow is actually the first morning of our local farmers market, so we'll be there bright and early. I'm hoping that these will be good snacks so we can take along, not to sell, but just for ourselves to snack on while we're at the farmers market tomorrow. So I'm excited about this.
So we have these all lined up. First we have the oregano, then the curry, cumin, and then sriracha last.
Right. So we're just going to go right down the row, and we're going to try each one, starting with the oregano.
I want that piece.
All right. Hey.
A lot of flavor. These are so crunchy and awesome, you guys.
Yeah, I wish you could...
And salty.
I wish you could see or feel how crunchy they are.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up is the curry. Now, here's something you may not know about Sarah and I. We love Indian food. When we lived in the Phoenix area, there was an awesome Indian restaurant not far from where we lived. We went there probably too much.
Yeah.
But we absolutely love Indian, so I'm hoping this curry is going to take me back to eating some good Indian food. Mmm.
That's very good.
It is very good.
Mm-hmm. These are going to be awesome snacks.
These are awesome snacks. I think that's my favorite so far. I like that better than the oregano, I think.
I like the oregano
Although I think the oregano would be really good on a salad.
Very much so.
All right, let's try the cumin.
Cuminy.
Not as flavorful as I would have thought. At least not the piece I had.
I think you should try a piece with more of it on, because I thought it was nice. I think that's very good.
So far, for me, the curry still wins.
I still like the oregano the best. Now the final one for us to try is the sriracha.
I think this is going to be probably both of our favorites, honestly, because we both love sriracha, and I think it's going to be a little spicy. We both love spicy food. So.
And this is using my homemade sriracha.
Which she has a video about how to make homemade sriracha, so watch that.
Very good.
Mmm.
It's very good. I wish it was more vinegary. It's definitely spicy.
Yeah, it's good.
But I think the sour component, I think we should work on it.
I think it's really good.
I think it's good. But I was expecting that sourness, kind of like, you know, when you have buffalo sauce.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking, buffalo versus the sriracha.
I think it's really good. The spice is definitely there. The flavor is definitely there. I think this is an awesome snack. I think this is something we're probably going to have in jars around the house all the time. It's an easy thing to make. Like I said, if you don't have a freeze dryer, you can at least make the cheese in all the different flavors.
Right.
But if you have a freeze dryer, or if you're thinking about getting a freeze dryer, definitely this is something you need to try. The freeze dryer that we have is the Harvest Right. It's the medium-sized freeze dryer. We'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to check that out. But I think that this is really awesome.
The really nice thing for us here is that, as you know, we want to grow and raise as much of our own food as possible. And to be able to do the same thing with some of the really healthy snacks that we can produce on the homestead is fantastic.
Right. So you guys, I hope you try this out. Let us know if you do. We think that this is a definite winner. If you're enjoying our videos, make sure that you hit that subscribe button before you leave. Don't forget, as always, the absolute best way that you can help us is by sharing our videos on all of your social media. And until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care, and God bless.
God bless.